daily gatherings in temple and home. The life of the Jerusalem assembly rose and set like the sun that climbed over the Mount of Olives. Weekly observances or occasional gatherings did not measure their days. Their rhythm was daily, steady, as natural as breath, shaped by prayer, scripture, shared bread, and the constant nearness of Yahweh in their midst. They walked through the city as one household scattered across many rooms yet bound by one heart. At dawn, the people stirred, households waking with prayers rising from open windows. Some moved toward the temple, feet stepping on ancient stones polished by generations of Israel. The courts were wide and filled with light, a place where Israel had always gathered for the appointed hours of prayer. Now the disciples of Yeshua joined those prayers, adding their own thanksgiving for the risen King. They stood, they lifted hands, they bowed low, their voices weaving with the voices of all Israel, yet carrying the fire of the Ruach within. In those courts the apostles taught day after day. They walked beneath Solomon's porch, spoke in the shade of tall columns, unrolled scrolls, opened the meaning of Torah, and proclaimed Yeshua whom Yahweh raised. The crowds gathered around them, men leaning forward, women listening from behind the pillars, children sitting near their mothers, elderly men resting on steps, hungry to hear how the ancient promises had taken flesh in Yeshua. The apostles did not speak in riddles. They opened Scripture with clarity, showing how the prophets had pointed to this moment, how the covenant reached its fullness in the pierced and risen King. While they taught, acts of mercy unfolded around them. The sick were carried into the courts. The lame reached out hands. Those tormented found freedom. Healing moved through the crowd like wind through the olive branches. These works were not spectacle. They were the hand of Yahweh touching his people. The healed stood, walked, rejoiced, and clung to the apostles who declared that such power came not from men but from Yeshua seated at the right hand of Yahweh. The temple, once a place of ritual alone, became a living sanctuary where Yahweh's compassion moved openly. When the prayers of the 9th hour faded and the sun began to sink toward the western hills, the people returned to their homes scattered throughout Jerusalem. Lamps were lit, water drawn, bread prepared. Families and brothers gathered from house to house. These homes were small sanctuaries, each one a little Jerusalem within the larger city. Children hurried to set tables. Mothers broke fresh loaves. Fathers led blessings over bread and over the name of Yahweh. Widows were given honored seats. Strangers were welcomed as kin. The breaking of bread was not a ritual performed occasionally, but a daily act that carried the weight of covenant. They remembered Yeshua as they ate, recalling his words spoken on the night he was betrayed, his hands breaking bread, his eyes full of love for his friends. As they shared food, they shared life. Needs surfaced and were met. Stories of Yahweh's works were told. The teachings heard that day in the temple were repeated and explained. Songs rose from humble rooms, psalms sung with trembling voices, melodies shaped by memory and devotion. At these tables, no one was forgotten. The poor ate beside the wealthy. Widows received portions first. Travelers found refuge. Children listened and learned. The unity of the assembly was not proclaimed, but lived, bite by bite, prayer by prayer, story by story. The table forged a bond stronger than stone walls. Fathers taught their families at these meals, repeating Yeshua's teachings, answering questions, guiding hearts, opening scripture. Mothers added wisdom, shaping the household's inner life with gentleness and strength. Brothers encouraged brothers. Sisters comforted sisters. The Ruach stirred hearts during these meals, softening pride, healing tensions, and weaving peace through each home. And when the meal finished, the lamps flickered lower. Shadows stretched along stone floors, and prayers rose again. Some households lingered in song. Some walked together through narrow streets to visit widows. Others sat quietly, sharing burdens. The city darkened, but the assembly's lamps continued to burn, each home a flame of Yahweh's presence. This was the daily life of the Jerusalem assembly, temple courts filled with teaching and prayer, homes filled with bread and fellowship, streets filled with mercy and encouragement. They did not divide life into sacred and ordinary. Every breath, every step, every table, every moment belonged to Yahweh. The covenant path was not walked once a week. It was lived sunrise to sunset, then held through the night with lamps glowing in the windows of those who awaited the return of their king.